Copic markers. I don't know why I keep doing this in all of these videos and I gotta clean them up every time. Hello and welcome back to another video right here with Chris G. So today we're going to take a look at the Copic or Copic in some places in the world markers. These are my favorite medium to work with. I'm gonna say that. I really love using these markers. I love watercolor as well, but these markers were probably the first artist grade medium that I got into. So first, before I get into all of that, I'm gonna tell you about the Copic company, just in case you don't know who Copic is. If you've never seen this marker before, if you don't know anything about this brand or what these markers can do, I'm just gonna give a short little brief lowdown on what it is. All right, so the Copic brand of marker, you see it right here, Copic. The Copic brand of marker is a Japanese-made marker, of course created in Japan, and basically this marker was made with the manga artist in mind. Okay, so the whole premise of this marker was to be the manga artist's best friend when they have to ink sketches and ink work. So the way that the marker is built, the choice of nibs in the marker, the quality of the pigment in the marker and the ink, all of that was based on what the manga artists needed when they use markers and suggestions from different manga artists around Japan. Since then, the manga industry has really picked up these markers as like a catalyst for the entire manga industry. So that's kind of the claim to fame behind these markers, is that they became such a big deal in the manga industry that soon leaked out of Japan and made it around the world. Now artists of all different types of artists who do all different types of things use these markers, from architects to to manga artists to regular comic book artists or whoever they may be. A lot of people tend to use this. A lot of journalists use this as well. So that's just a little bit on that. So the Copic, this is the Copic Sketch Marker. Copic makes 4 different types of markers. The Sketch, the Ciao, the Classic marker, which is the original design, and then also the Wide marker. So the Wide marker is a really short, wide version of this marker with one tip, and it's a chisel tip. The Ciao marker is a smaller design of the same marker. It is a round marker, and it is the cheapest of the 4, followed by the Wide, I want to say, and then the Classic, and then the Sketch being the most expensive. And then the Classic marker. So the Classic is a square design. It is in the shape of a square, and as you can see, this sketch marker is in the shape of an oval. It is oval shaped. All of the markers sport the same color design, which is a very noticeable marketing scheme. Not a marketing scheme, but a marketing strategy is the word that I'm trying to say. It's a marketing strategy from the Copic company that all of their markers are this dull gray color. So if you ever see this color of marker, you automatically know that this is the Copic marker. As you can see, these are my grays, and they all have that same color. One thing is that these markers also come in a black shade, just the Sketch. The Sketch marker comes in a black color, but those are only the anniversary edition of the marker. So only the anniversary edition will be in black. All of the rest of them will be gray, like these. So the one thing, again, another thing that makes these markers so popular is the selection of colors. So there are about 358, almost 360 colors. I think 358 to be exact, colors in the Copic Sketch line. All right, there is a lot of colors in this line. The good thing about these markers is that Copic has created a color family coding system. And what that means is that each marker, if you look at the top of the marker, has a letter or two letters followed by two numbers. This is a coding system that helps the artist know about the marker before they even use it. Okay, if you know how to read the code on the marker, then you know how the marker is going to work once you put it down on paper. I'm not going to get into that on this video, but I will be making another video that will be a crash course on Copic markers that will go in depth on the color family coding system and also other little small details about the Copic markers. But I'm just going to try to make this as quick as I can. So as you can see, this is G, so G will be green. BG, blue-green. C is cool, and since it's gray color, this is a cool gray. If you look at this one, this is a W, so W is warm gray. All right, that's all I'm going to say about that on this one. The good thing is that Copic, when you buy Copic markers, they insist, or they don't insist, they recommend that you buy markers in sets of 2 or 3. And the reason for that being is because of the color families that I was talking to you about. So what happens is two markers, you can get two markers and you can blend them easily together if they're close to each other on the color family. For instance, the E11 and E13, being that they are so close to each other, when you blend these markers, they blend very nicely and very easily together. And then if you add a third color going from lightest to darkest, then you have a nice gradation of colors that you can get when you blend these together. These are skin tone markers, by the way. Copic is known for their very nice skin tone colors. They have a wide selection of different colors that are really good skin tones. One more thing is that one good thing about Copic is that the color of the cap of the marker is very close. It's very close, if not exactly the same as the color once it is down on paper. So that's one thing that I personally really enjoy about these markers, that working with other markers, you know, it's not the same, is that on some markers, when you look at the label on the marker, if you look at the cap on the marker, the color that it shows is not what the marker really looks like when it gets on paper. So that's, you know, this is just a lot easier. You can look over at your markers and you can see the color of the cap of the marker, and you know exactly what you need, and you don't have to really think about, is this the color that I need? Is the cap on this color the same as when I use it? You don't have to think about that because the caps are very close to the actual color of the marker. So let's go into the build design. The sketch marker, and I'm just going to talk about the sketch on this one. The sketch marker has two nibs on the marker, and each of the sketch markers have two nibs. Actually, all of the markers except for the wide have two nibs. So one nib is the chisel tip nib. The chisel tip is a more stiff nib, and it gives straight lines, and it doesn't flex at all. So it gives a more uniform line, and it's not gonna be, it's predictable. Let me put it like that. It's a more predictable nib to use. On the other end, you have the they call it the super brush, I want to say, the super brush nib, and this is a lot more like a squishy, soft nib feeling. It feels, you know, when the marker is full of ink, it feels really good to put this thing on paper and to use it. the good thing about this nib is that when you're blending, you can flick the nib and just like a brush. When you're blending colors together, you can kind of go from a lighter to a darker shade as you flick the nib across the paper, and then you can move a darker shade into that, creating a gradation of color. All of these markers, something special about them is that they can be refilled and the nibs can be replaced. So one thing that the Copic company really prides themselves on is, one thing that they say is that you only have to buy this marker one time. You don't have to buy multiples of the marker. So if you buy this marker one time, you shouldn't have to buy it anymore, because all of the pieces are interchangeable. You can buy new nibs for the marker. So if you use these often and your nib starts to break down on you or is not doing too well, you can pull this nib out and you can replace it with the new nib that you can buy separately. You can buy refills, which this is a refill bottle. The refills, the codes on the refills are the same as the marker, so it makes it easy to find what color you need. You don't have to read the name. If you can just see the letter and the number, you can match it up. There is about 12. You can refill one of these markers 12 times with one of these refills. The refill is about like 50 cents to $1 more than one of these markers. And I mean, it pays for itself because you buy the marker, and because these markers are expensive, I'm gonna say that right now. These markers are expensive. These are not a cheap marker. It's not something cheap that you can just jump into. On top of that, if you buy one of these markers, or if you buy like weird primary colors with this marker instead of like a triad like I showed you earlier, then it will it's gonna cost you more, because you have to buy these in groups, or it's recommended that you buy them in groups, or you buy markers that go with markers that you already have, and not just something that's, you know, way out of place as far as the color selection. So yeah, so that's that, the refill. These markers go for, I've seen from $4 up to $6 for one marker. So that's expensive. And it's 358 colors, so you can do the math on that. Just if you hit it right in the middle at $5, say a marker is $5, and you multiply that by 358, you're looking at a pretty penny. That's a nice little bit of money. So they're an investment, if anything else. Another thing about the body of these markers, they added this gray strip right here on the marker, and what that does is identify the brush nib from the chisel nib. The chisel nib does not have this extra gray strip. So if you pick up the marker like this and you don't see the label because they're labeled on this side, but if you pick up the marker and it's on this side, you know that this is going to be the brush nib because of the gray strip on it, and this will be the chisel because there's no gray strip. So just something to keep in mind. So with that, I'm going to get into a little demonstration of some of the blending that you can do with these markers, and then I will show you some of the work that I've done with these markers, just so you can get an idea of how they look on paper and how they work. So let's take a look at it. But what I'm gonna do right now is just a quick demonstration of some blending with these cool colored gray markers. Now I'm just going to speed up the video so we can move a little quicker through this process. I'm gonna make a separate video on that's actually using this same clip, but it's the full clip, and it's the non-sped up version. And I'll be using that to show you all
exactly how to use these Copic markers and how to get a smooth gradation of color. But on this video, since it's just a review of the markers, I didn't want to spend too much time going through this part, just because I can do it separately and make a tutorial video that's entire purpose is to show you all how to use the marker. So if you don't see every step of this process, don't worry, because I will be releasing the full video soon. But one thing I will say is that using this technique, using this technique, you can apply this technique with any colors, and it doesn't just have to be gray. Gray is just easier to see. So
yeah. This is just one example of the markers when you put them down on paper. But so this is, I'm just gonna wrap up the video right here. This is a good place to wrap it up. So again, that is the Copic Sketch Markers. Yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the review, and I hope you all learned a little something with this review. I might do, if you're interested in marker tutorials, please just let me know down in the comments. Especially if you're an urban sketcher, if you do architecture or anything like that, these markers can be used for that as well. There's some artists I've seen, especially on Instagram, that have beautiful landscape artwork, and they use these Copic markers for their ink work. A lot of people use watercolor just because it's easier to move around than carrying a lot of these markers around. But you can still create beautiful pieces of art with these markers, and they'll be able to last for a long time. So with that being said, if you like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up down there in the comments. Not down in the comments, just give it a thumbs up. Hit the button that looks like a thumb with, thumbs up. Hit that if you found it helpful, if you learned anything. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions about these markers, or if you would like to see any type of tutorials about these markers on how to use them, leave them down in the comments below and let me know what you think or what you would like to see. If you have any Copic markers, let me know how you feel about them down below, and I would love to talk to you about them. So with that, we're going to end the video. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed it. Peace.